Okay, thank you everyone for joining. We will start immediately. Today we're going to cover the latest firmware update for our hardware appliance, which is called TrueConf Group. This is a seed-based endpoint. We will cover it in details a little bit later. I'd like to introduce you to Sergey. He's our lead developer of this solution, and he will help me today to answer the questions if there will be any, and he will provide some additional information regarding this update. Like before, we set up for you a small demo. We have the group endpoint, the codec with a camera attached to the screen. You can see it on the in the conference. All the demonstrations will happen on that screen, so you will be able to see them in real time. While instead of my video, I will share, like before, my screen, so you will be able to see the control panel, the web control panel of the endpoint, and the slide deck I have prepared for this webinar. The webinar will be rather small. I expect it will take not more than 30 minutes. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. We have a public chat available. Just click on the right side panel to access it. And here we go. I will disable the second content stream and we'll switch back to the browser. Okay. Do you see the slide deck? Okay, I hope so. So, yes, thank you. First of all, I will change the content grab from the browser to my desktop. We will need this to see other things I'd like to show you today. Okay, TrueConf Group appeared a year ago. It is something different to the solutions we usually offer because it is not a software, it is a hardware appliance. It is actually a codec which comes along with different types of PTZ cameras, web cameras, and USB audio peripherals, according to which are available on your market. So usually we ship this product to our resellers as a codec with a list of recommended AV equipment, which are compatible with the endpoint and which our resellers can introduce to the end customers. So this solution was available before with the versions numbered like 0.4, 0.5, 0.5.7. So we decided that the product is mature enough to make it version number 1, and this release with a lot of updates we are going to cover during this webinar, we decided to relaunch the version number and label it a version 1.0. All our existing customers who are using our group endpoint are eligible for free upgrade for the new firmware. Feel free to contact your managers or contact our technical support to receive the new firmware file and upload it to the endpoint using the web interface. I will show you how to do that. So if we go to the web panel of our endpoint, we go to the settings, then we browse down to the maintenance, and the top line, the first line will be upgrade software, where we can choose the .firmware file, which consists of the new version of our software. The new version 1.0 is not available for immediate download from our website. You have to request it from our technical support team or from your manager. That's how the upgrade process is done. Make sure that you didn't cut off the electricity during the upgrade, because otherwise it will require more manipulations to restore the device. This is still possible, but we do not recommend to do that. Okay, so just to remind what TrueConf Group is, I'd like to spend 5 of your precious minutes and tell you this solution is different compared to other room endpoints we covered with you last time. So last time we spoke about software room solution, which is called TrueConf Room. So in the contrary, TrueConf Group is a hardware solution, and it is totally different from user perspective because it is based on SIP and H.323 protocols. and it is only compatible with TrueConf ecosystem over SIP of Litho3 protocols. So this product can be used to connect directly without our server, without any intermediate gateway, without any intermediate media server. It can call directly any other SIP-based equipment or Litho3-based equipment. It could be MCU virtual rooms. It could be other endpoints made by Cisco, Poly, Huawei, Yealink, and other manufacturers. So we do fully support very nice quality in this endpoint, up to 1080p 60 frames per second. So all you have to do is connect it to the power and the network, and then you can use it like a regular phone or some other video conferencing endpoints you have in your rooms. This solution comes along with two video outputs to attach up to two screens. So it fully supports the display of video for multi-point calls, for point-to-point calls, and the content, which is usually displayed on the second screen, but you can change it in the settings, and we also offer a lot of different layouts to create a specific layout which suits exactly your needs in exactly the room you want to have this layout. We also provide the capture card, which is built in. Please pay attention to the right bottom corner of this slide. You can see that the capture card is built in, and this capture card has two inputs. This is very important to provide our customers with two inputs, because usually one input is used for HDMI tail cable, which is placed somewhere in a room, which you can use to attach to the laptop, which your users bring to the rooms, while the second HDMI input could be used for various multiple purposes. It could be additional video source like document camera, or camera which is capturing the whiteboard, or it could be wireless display solution like Barca ClickShare, and you can in real time change various inputs from camera, from wireless presentation system, from wired HDMI connection in your room, and the endpoint, the solution, will send this to your remote parties by means of SIP and 3-3 protocols. You don't have to do anything. Very nice quality, as I said, 60 frames per second. And the best thing about this solution, it is actually a very customizable solution, because we provide a list of various compatible peripherals. It basically could be any USB audio and video device. The solution is based on the latest generation, latest version of Linux kernel. That means it do fully support a lot of latest audio and video equipment available in the market. So we're not limited to use the peripherals we offer. You can use Logitech, Yamaha, Sennheiser, and other solutions like Jabra or even Yealink. So it's up to you or Poly, which is who offer right now very nice audio peripherals at the moment, which are fully compatible with our equipment as well. The endpoint comes along with the remote controller. You can see it on the screen and in our hands right now. So the best thing about this controller, it is pretty tall. So we make sure that you will distinguish it from other controls you might have in your room, like TV controller or camera control. So this one you will never miss it, because it stands out from other remote controls, and it has all important buttons available to control the call, change layouts, switch content stream, mute your microphone, or control the PTZ functions on the camera. So all you need is here. We ship those remote controls along with our codecs, because this is the hardware. So it is not possible for you to build up the system. So we always ship the codec plus controller, and that's it. And then you attach the peripherals you'd like to use with the codec. Because the solution is built upon a modified version of the PC with Linux inside, we provide nice support for specific devices. For example, we know how to wake up the TV in a room. We know how to put the camera to sleep and rotate it backwards to make sure that to allow you to see that it is not capturing you while you're not using the endpoint. The codec can sleep but still be online, and he can receive a call any moment because of the very deep integration with the peripherals and Linux subsystem. It behaves like any other A-brand solutions. So we position this codec as a direct competitor for solutions like Polycom Real Presence Group 500 or Cisco SX20 and some other similar solutions which are usually used in big rooms and allows you to use two screens and allows you to use audio in a room. So we offer the same. It also provides built-in MCU, and we do also provide built-in MCU to allow a third or fourth or fifth up to 12 parties to join simultaneously to your call. So for some customers, this codec itself can replace an MCU because of the highly optimized software in it. Okay, that's the product. You can see it below the screen, below the TV on your webinar window. So the price for it is very, very affordable. It is basically a couple of times less than other solutions. You can check the pricing on our website on TrueConf.com. It basically starts from 1,500 USD, which is very affordable. Some microphones on the market are even more expensive than our complete solution with a camera, with a codec, and a controller. And the codec itself, without camera, it is a camera without speakerphone, with just the codec and the remote controller are even cheaper. So you can easily use them to create your own setups for your customers, for your own use, with whatever equipment you already have in your room or might have from your local distributor of AV peripherals. So let's proceed to the updates. If you have any questions so far, please use chat while we move slightly to the new things we have introduced with the new version 1.0. So the most important thing you have to understand is that in a software, the firmware, we do fully support the 4K UltraHD video, not only for point-to-point calls, but for multi-point calls as well. It is now possible to encode and decode and display 4K video. Of course, if you have a proper camera. Right now, you can see one of the most affordable 4K PTZ cameras available on the market, which is, as I remember, CleverMic 4035. It is available on our website, TrueConf.com. So this 4K camera can be used to fully utilize the fancy large TVs you might have or your customers might have in your rooms, because it is just impossible to buy full HD 1080p screen nowadays. So we decided to do fully support the benefits of new generation of Intel CPUs, the benefits of larger screens, which are very affordable nowadays, and finally bring that 4K quality to the SIP and 3-to-3 world. Because TrueConf is very well known as a first solution to offer 4K video calls for our own protocol for TrueConf Windows application, but now we do the same for the group systems as well with this update of TrueConf Group. So Sergey, please make a call to another endpoint, and we will try to show you.
Okay, I have an open web panel to another codec.
Okay, this one.
So we see a picture that we receive from another conference room.
Yeah, I will show you. So please pay attention to this part of the screen. So we do receive on our side 4K video, 30 frames per second from remote party. So we pointed the camera, 4K camera on the other end on some object on the wall in a conference room, and it's difficult for you to show this because we are capturing the screen of a TV on a second video stream during this webinar, but believe me, the video is very crisp. And there is one thing I'd like to mention when we talk about 4K video calls. It is very, very important to use proper PTZ cameras with nice optics when we talk about 4K. There is no sense in using 4K for video bars, for small web cameras, because they're just unable to capture enough light to properly use 4K quality. In most conditions, if you're using 4K web camera or 4K video bar, in most conditions, in most cases, for you, there won't be much difference between 1080p and 4K. So if you'd like to achieve nice 4K quality, you have to use PTZ 4K cameras with nice optics, which can guarantee that you will be able to see the difference without any noise, without any artifacts in the video. So our goal in this case is to make sure that the firmware do support this mode, and it is actually supported indeed, and it is not limited for point-to-point calls. We can also use the same capabilities to receive 4K streams. So what we do offer, we have a TrueConf MCU solution. There are not so many MCUs still available on the market, so you have to pay very big attention to this product because it's kind of a unique product. It's still available as an on-prem MCU solution. And our MCU can output 4K multi-point calls, and our endpoint can receive this 4K video, which can consist of 4 or 9 screens, and display it to you. And the important thing here to notice is that when we talk about point-to-point 4K, you have to specifically tell us that you need 4K point-to-point because we will put more powerful CPU inside the codec in this case. But if you need 4K only for multi-point calls or for content sharing, then it is available on any set we provide with for TrueConf Group. Because the requirements for decoding and displaying 4K content is relatively smaller compared to encoding of 4K, and that slide explains it. So we offer 4K decoding and 4K content on all sets of our endpoint. Okay, so on the screen right now you can see the example of 4K content the Sergey is sending from one endpoint to another endpoint. So if I go to the settings, just a moment, we will see that the content stream we do receive here is 4K. The frame rate is rather small because the content is not moving. So those things are adjusted in real time, but the quality is amazing. So now we can share scans, presentations, some graphics in a very, very high quality across the 4K screens without any loss of details, without any encoding and transcoding noises, which are usually available during the calls over CP33. This mode could be very useful for telemedicine applications, for engineering, and for other tasks which require the exact representation for remote parties of your images from your HDMI source or from the presentations you would like to show. Currently, we are capturing content for this demo from the image we uploaded on the endpoint, but it could be any 4K capture card because for this update we tested capture cards available on the market from AV Media, from Blackmagic, so you can use USB 4K capture cards, attach them to the endpoint, and deliver 4K content for remote parties. That's another UltraHD 4K feature of the new version we like to offer you. Another new update, which you have just seen it on the screen. Once again, you can see them on the screen. Alexei, could you please zoom to the right corner? So please pay attention that the codec you can now, when we talk about multi-point calls, it can create multi-point layouts, or if we talk about point-to-point calls, the multi-point layout is created when we do receive content. So we have 3 screens. So it is now possible to display videos over another videos. So regularly, we display videos in a mosaic mode. Next video, every video attached to each other. This mode. I will show you in a second settings. So if we go to the settings, video settings,
video layout.
we
Scroll down.
Scroll down, video layout. So if once I enable the overlap mode, the layout will be changed, and it will allow us to see the remote party or the content we do receive in a full resolution without any scaling, which is very nice for content. While our video will be located somewhere over the content, if I change the layout using the remote controller, you can see it travels along the corners of the screen, so we can place the layout of the call or multi-point call, whatever we'd like to have, without compromising the quality of the content or other parts that we receive. So this is a new feature, the overlaid layouts, because if I disable this checkbox, we go to the mode we had before. So you see the background.
Yeah, the content is scaled, the quality is a bit reduced.
Quality is reduced, and what is more important, we're not using the real estate our screen offers us in a full way. So once we enable it, we use the screen properly. That's very nice. Okay. We also introduced, please hang up this call, some quite important security updates for this new version. Finally, we provided support for encryption using standard extensions, which are H235 for H323 and RSRTP for SIP connections. So if your remote parties insist on using encryption, now we make sure that you will be able to join them, join their meetings, join those calls using TrueConf Group, because we do fully support the encryption now. There is only 2 standards available for SIP and 323 calls. We do support both. But the next security enhancement, we believe, is more important, because very often SIP equipment are being attacked by scanners, by bot networks, which are trying to find and localize PBXs, telephony servers in the internet. And very often it happens that during a call, when your endpoint, when your codec is placed on a white IP address, on a public IP address, sometimes being introduced to your call, or you receive an incoming call during a meeting, because the network, because the endpoint is being scanned by some malicious software, and we introduced the solution for such problems.
The defense system.
Defense system, yeah, which actually helps customers to use the endpoint, the codec, when it is available over the internet with a direct public IP address. So we call this denial of distributed attack, once again. So anti-distributed denial of service attacks protection, so DDoS protection. This is a pretty complicated stuff. We're not just analyzing traffic, we also analyze the statistics of attempts. So we create internally a list of IP addresses we have to block and not allow to receive your endpoint. So in most conditions, you are able to put the TrueConf Group on a public IP address, and most probably, in most cases, it will be safe. So you won't be bothered by remote malicious calls. Because we believe this is a very unique feature. It could be a nice reason to try our solution, especially for those customers who care about security, because security is the corner point and most important feature for all TrueConf products. We care about security, and that's why we introduced this. Okay, please go on. Another feature update is, let's make a call to someone, is extended advanced call details. Before we had call details with a fewer parameters, with a fewer things to track, but now it's not only list all available parameters we can have during the call in a web panel. Once again, here the call statistics. We have absolutely the same data on screen now, but it is also possible to change pages. So if we have a call with multiple sites, we will be able to see audio, video, and content data for statistics for other sites where we have pages. So please pay attention to the arrows on the screen so we can move left or right if we would have more parties in this call. By the way, 4K call. Another new update is very funny. So we will end up this call and Sergey will call the codec from his computer. We provided support for messages and chat capabilities when TrueConf Group is being connected to any conference on TrueConf server. So if we connect group to TrueConf-based system, TrueConf protocol conference happening on TrueConf server, please enable the camera. Yeah, here it is. So Sergey has his camera disabled. So the idea here is it is now possible when you join the TrueConf meeting from seed-based endpoint, now you will be able to see the interactions, chat interactions, messages interaction, which going on in a call, because very often desktop calls, mobile calls are happening with messages. We use messages for protocol. We'd like to say things, we'd like to outline some ideas we discussed during the meeting, so we use chat a lot. And now participants who join TrueConf meetings from room systems will be able to see those messages and chat messages on their screen, so they will be able to participate in a call more effectively. It is also possible to send messages back using the web interface of the room solution, of the group solution. Here we have a message, please pay attention on my screen on the right bottom side of the screen, so I can send a message. Like every software developer do this, like hello world. So it will be displayed on the screen as well. We can use this, for example, remote operator who manage the endpoint, the codec remotely, he can send during any call, during any meeting, a message to the people in the room saying like, you have 15 minutes left, there's another meeting scheduled, please finish up your call, for example, or some other important information can be delivered from the web panel of the endpoint to the parties who are using it at the moment. That's a new feature. And another big work has been done to optimize the usage of the solution. We finally transferred to the, as I said, the latest version of Linux kernel, which also helped us to fully support and utilize capabilities which are now available in the 10th and 11th generation of Intel CPUs. We use Intel CPUs for the codec. So now we reduced the load on the CPU because we utilize hardware acceleration for rendering tasks. Because when we speak about one or even two 4K screens, the rendering becomes very CPU extensive task, and it requires a lot of resources. So we learned how to handle those tasks over the built-in GPU to built-in GPU, and free the resources of CPU for MCU or other things he needs to do, like very nice 4K calls, for example, or 1080p 60 frames per second calls. So it reduced the load of the CPU, the reduced load of the CPU reduced the heat output of the CPU. So the cooler, the fan inside the codec produce less noise, and overall it is very environmental, more friendly solution. So Greta Thunberg will be happy to hear this to have this in her conference room with less heat produced by the codec, because usually video conferencing is a very resourceful task and produce a lot of computations. So leveraging their computational calculations over the GPU is a very nice thing to have. We did the same for ARM-based kits, because our codec in a less powerful editions are also available for ARM-based systems, which are available on some markets. So it can be this GPU acceleration used for ARM-based CPUs as well. We also offered for our local customers a new case, which is fanless. It is passive heat distribution system, so there is no rotation in it. So we now have a version of the case, a version of the codec without fan inside. So it outputs all the heat from the surface of the codec because of the highly optimized GPU acceleration inside. Such codecs without fan can be used in environments like courtrooms, where the protocol is being recorded and the speech is being recognized, and any noise from fan, for example, usually are not welcome. So it is very useful for such environments. Okay, we almost finished. So also in this release, we provided improved compatibility with popular video conferencing endpoints and systems. For example, we solved some issues we had before with content being received from Cisco Unix server. We supported high resolutions and better content quality for latest generation of poly X series endpoints like X30, X50, X70. We provided better support for telephony integrations. Currently, the endpoint is often used to invite telephony subscriber, like PSTN number, to the meeting, for example. Now it could be done using asterisk and open SIPs PBXs, digital PBXs. We also supported the H350 protocol. It is the way how SIP and 323 addresses are being stored in Active Directory database. So once you connect the codec to the Active Directory, we can properly import from the Active Directory all the addresses of remote room systems into the built-in address book of the codec, where all addresses will be correctly put in the corresponding fields like SIP or 323 address or whatever. And of course, we provided support for 4K capture cards, as I said, from EV Media or Blackmagic, which can now be used to capture 4K content. There is one thing I'd like to mention as well, is when we talk about remote additional capture card, USB capture card, it behaves a little bit differently compared to the built-in capture card, because we control all the equipment we provide along with our codec. The built-in capture card provides some additional functions. For example, we know when someone is attached, not only attaching the cable to the laptop, for example, or some video source, we know when the signal starts to travel across HDMI cable to the capture card, and we can automatically change the layout or enable content on the second screen on codec only when the video is being transmitted to the capture card, not when the cable was attached to the capture card, how it happens to other capture cards. But this feature is only available for built-in capture card. If we talk about external capture card connected over USB to the codec, we cannot provide this sensible feature, and we do not know when the signal is being presented on a cable. So if you'd like transparent experience, nice experience, so it's better to use built-in capture card. But built-in capture card right now only do support 1080p resolution. It doesn't offer 4K content support. So for 4K content, you have to use external capture cards, but they're pretty affordable nowadays. It's approximately 200 USD or less usually, so it's very affordable. And the last thing I would like to cover today is not something we are going to add to this version. It will come later. But we created the AI-based machine learning algorithm, which automatically not just frame participants in a room, it automatically split participants in a room and creates a kind of smart gallery where it puts people along to each other and try to maximize the size of the face of each participant in the room automatically without, it doesn't matter which camera you are using. So with the 1080p camera or 4K camera, whatever, we can provide you inside the codec the auto framing and auto gallery creation solution. It will be available in one of the following updates of the firmware of TrueConf Group codec. I'm not going to tell you will it will be available next version, probably soon. I hope it will be available soon. We created the machine-based library, which we are going to introduce to TrueConf Room solutions, first of all, because the framing feature is very useful for rooms, of course. But I'd like to pay attention to the details. We invested a lot of our efforts to make the transitions smooth. So we accelerate and decelerate. We track people when they move along the room. So you can see this from the video. This is a very nice algorithm. This is not something you've seen before. So if you had experience with Logitech right side or Jabra framing, this solution will be much better, faster, smoother, and with a split of and with smart gallery function. So it will be very nice. So that's it. It was the last slide. I will disable my desktop and we are back with Sergey. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and we will be happy to answer. No questions, like before. Okay.
Everything is clear.
Very nice. We will provide the recording of this webinar for all people who registered in advance. Please pay attention to our blog because we have a lot of updates, not only for SIP solutions, but we have a lot of updates are coming for TrueConf server and for TrueConf client applications. So we are going to have next week one of the most important webinars of this year. Next week, we are going to present the new generation of client applications of TrueConf. This is something incredible. So we put 2 years of our development, a lot of efforts to create the new generation of TrueConf applications. So please make sure that you will be available at the same time next week for our major update of this year. We're going to cover it in real time, like today. So thank you for your time. Please be safe during these difficult times. Use conferencing as much as you can, and have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.